way too much fun. A groan of frustration rumbled through his chest. While he sat on the bar stool playing fashion police, his brother needed a rescue. The powerful rhythm of Miranda Lambert's Kerosene vibrated the dance floor, and the overhead red and amber lights shone down in a hazy inferno. Resigned, Jesse set his bottle of Shiner Bock down on the bar and turned to the bartender. "How about you save these stools for me?" Rory McIntyre, Irish by blood, Texan by choice, grinned. "You coming back with Reno or the hot-bodied brunette?" Jesse considered the female in question and had to agree. She had one smoking body he wouldn't mind taking his time to get to know. And those killer high heels at the bottom of her nicely toned legs, totally shooting his testosterone level over the red line. "Hard to say," he responded. "Don't know why I even bothered asking." Rory shook his head. "This is you we're talking about." Jesse gave him a tight smile. Years back, he and his brothers had developed quite a wild reputation. Though they'd never spent a single night in jail for their sometimes risky antics, they had spent a lot of time with the ladies. As much as folks liked to think boys talked, it was the girls, then later the women in suite, who'd spun the gossip into a firestorm that was often exaggerated beyond imagination. He was pretty sure he'd never had sex in a tree or on top of a horse before, but he also didn't bother to squash the rumors. It never hurt to be known as a good lover. Of course, if he'd done even half the women whose favors he'd been rumored to have partaken of, he'd never get out of bed. The older he and his brothers became, the faster the rumors flew, most of them courtesy of a very bored community. With Reno and Jackson now off the market, and Jake in Afghanistan, he'd become the main focus for the hotbed of gossip, the poster child for playboys everywhere. Didn't matter that he'd served honorable time in the Marines, or maintained his status as a good son, or had become a trustworthy caretaker of poodles and pot-bellied pigs alike. All anyone in this ranching community cared about was who he slept with and how long it would last. The going bets ranged anywhere from one night to a week. Apparently, a month-long relationship took imagination past its limits. Everyone would be disappointed to learn that the rumors were far-fetched, and he was far from the town man-whore. Yeah, it was his bad that he let them think what they wanted. Under normal circumstances, he'd never let that happen. Instead, the rumors worked in his favor. As long as everyone believed he was a confirmed bachelor, it kept the serious-minded women looking elsewhere. This allowed him the time and focus he needed to help his family. The gossip didn't make a difference to him, or the business he ran, and he supposed there were worse reputations to be had. Of course, his mother didn't feel that way, and he'd often have to run interference and assure her that no, he didn't sleep with every woman he met, and no, the reason he couldn't keep his vet assistants employed wasn't because he was sleeping with all of them, but because the job paid low wages, and often the commute to their little town was too far. He'd swear that on a stack of King Jameses. When everyone in his family was settled, he'd have time to focus on his own future, his own happiness. Although, at the moment... He tilted his head as the brunette on the dance floor did a sexy hip wiggle. He wouldn't mind putting his bad boy reputation to good use. A last sip of beer cooled his throat before he headed toward the dance floor. When he came up behind the brunette, Reno speared him with a "what the hell took you so long" glare. In a smooth maneuver they'd perfected back in the day, Reno handed her off. Jesse took her in his arms and spun her off to a corner so his big brother could escape. On the way off the dance floor, Reno gave him an "I'm out of here" signal. Jesse nodded. He was on his own, with a hot little brunette, who looked up at him with "who the hell are you?" Sparks shooting out of what he could see now were smoky gray eyes with flecks of fool's gold and whiskey brown flashing in their depths. In a blatant disregard of the lively dance steps, he slowed down, pulled her close, and watched a tiny wrinkle appear between her perfectly arched brows. Over the twang of guitars and vocals, he smiled and poured on the southern charm. "Hey there, darling." She glanced toward Reno's retreating backside, then at him again. "What are you, some kind of tag team?" He kept his smile in place as he enjoyed the way she fit against him. "Just didn't want you to waste any more of your time in his direction. In case you didn't notice, the man has 'taken' written all over him." "I didn't see a ring." "Women wear the engagement ring, not the men."